Picture this. You're standing on the dock, watching a fleet of sailboats line up. Boats are weaving around at the start. Everyone's shouting numbers. Sails are snapping. And then you hear a horn. And in the back of your mind, you think, that looks awesome. I want to try that. But that's for experts. I don't have the means to own a boat, and I don't know anything. Oh, I'd really like to try, but it just seems like there's no way. From the outside, I get it. The experience looks just so out of reach. But from inside the cockpit of Tali Ho, however, it's a different perspective. Come join us for a while. Since you're watching this, you're already halfway aboard. You just don't know it yet. So don't give up now. I'm Captain Tom, and this is our sonar-class sailboat, Tali Ho, named after my great-uncle who taught me how to sail, so many years ago when I was a kid. He was a pilot during World War II and was a distinguished veteran of the Battle of Britain. And oh, the stories he told us when we were out on the water with him. He would yell, "Tali Ho," whenever it was time for us crew to do something important. When I grew up and bought my own boat, I knew I couldn't name it anything else. Over the years, I've lost track of how many people have had their first race on Tali Ho. We raced Tali Ho out of Wayzata Yacht Club at least a couple of times a week, all season long, and have had so many new sailors aboard. Some come in proper sailing clothes, some come in jeans and a hoodie. A couple have shown up in flip-flops, carrying a bike helmet because they just happened to be riding by and stopped in. What's funny is that they almost all say the same 5 things about the myths that kept them from coming sooner, and by the time we return to the dock, they are no longer myths, but regrets. So let me take you aboard Tali Ho for just a few stories, and we'll kill those bad old myths, one by one. Look at all of these boats. What makes them go besides just the wind? Crew. All of these boats need crew. At the beginning of last season, a friend brought a co-worker down to the boat. "This is Sarah," he says. "She's driven by the club for years and really wants to try this, but she's terrified she's going to mess everything up." She steps aboard, kinda stiff, in this brand new PFD, like a security blanket. The first thing she said to me was, just don't put me in charge of anything important." So I handed her the jib sheet. "Okay, this is your job. When I say pull, you just pull this. When I say ease, just let it out some. That's it. That's your whole job." So we go out. The first start, she's a little wide-eyed, and the first tack she's looking around, so she's a little late, but she starts to get what her one job is. But by the second race, she's already beating me to the trim. By the third race, she's talking to the telltales like they're misbehaving kids and flying the spinnaker. On the way back in, she turns to me and says, "I thought I needed to know everything before I tried this, but it turns out all I just needed to know was one small thing at the right time." And that's the truth. You don't start by being some expert or hero. and you don't have to worry about the boat. That's my job. You start by being one pair of hands, doing one job and getting better at it and becoming more comfortable with it. The experience comes from days like that, stacked on top of each other. A couple of summers ago, we were doing some hull cleaning of Tali Ho, and this guy wanders over from the parking lot. You can tell that he's been watching the races for a while. He says, "Okay, be honest. How much did all of this cost you?" The boat, the sails, the gear, the life jackets that all match. It must cost a bundle for anyone to even think about getting started in this. And I laughed because I'm looking at our crew. One of us was in old running shoes, another in gym shorts. So I share with them the secret no one really advertises. If you're crewing, you don't need to own the boat. Most of the people you see on the rail don't own a boat. They've just shown up enough times with enthusiasm that now they have a regular spot. Your buy-in isn't 10 grand. It's some reasonable active wear clothing, shoes that don't slip, and the ability to get to the dock in time for a race once a week. A yearly crew membership in many places is about the same as a single night on the town. That's it. You can show up in borrowed gear with a borrowed PFD and be more valuable to a skipper than someone with the fanciest kit who flakes after 2 races. And yes, owning a boat is a different conversation. But if you want to just race, your wallet is not what is stopping you. Now, this is a big one. Everyone's heard at least one horror story about that guy who screams at his crew. We had a new crew member once. His name was Ben. And the first night he steps aboard and he's already apologizing. And he says, "Hey, so I watched some videos and I'm really trying not to be the person who gets yelled at." So I told him straight. There are 2 promises. 1, you will mess up, and so will we. And 2, no one is getting yelled at unless they are in danger. And here's the point. Good boats know their limits and treat mistakes like a tuition. It doesn't mean that we will never raise our voices. Sometimes it's really windy and loud, and you have 3 seconds to make something happen. But there's a big difference between shouting instructions and tearing someone down. And if I feel a particular race is really beyond someone's ability, I will tell them for their own sake, but not as a put-down. I also always evaluate the conditions for the level of skill of the overall crew as well, and never push things to an unsafe level. Sometimes the crew we have for a particular race is not our A-team, and that's okay. No one should ever feel as if they are truly afraid on the boat. And as a longtime skipper, I believe I understand most situations where damage or true danger can occur. You are allowed to pick boats that coach versus boats that blame. They're out there. Being afraid of making mistakes should never hold you back. From shore, the start looks like pure madness. Boats everywhere, all aimed at the same invisible line, all at the same time. I remember skippering my own first race on a different boat, long before Tali Ho. I was so afraid of hitting somebody or just capsizing in a panic. But then my dad said, "Don't worry, remember there's always a next time." On Tali Ho, whenever we bring someone new in, I'll say, "Okay, for the first few races, forget about winning the start. Our goal is not being early and moving at the line. If that means we hang a little low and start 10 seconds late, that's okay. We'll have space to maneuver, and you won't be terrified, and you'll actually be able to look around and learn. Your job as new crew might simply be, watch that boat to leeward and tell me if we're getting too close. Or yell out the countdown on the timer every 30 seconds. Those tiny jobs will make it start to feel way less like chaos and way more like a pattern you can follow. After a bunch of them, you'll start to recognize the rhythm. Who's early or who's late, or where the opportunity holes open up. And suddenly, the thing that looked insane from the dock feels kind of addictive. An aphorism that I'd like to use with the crew from Ralph Waldo Emerson is, "That which we persist in doing becomes easier to us. Not because the nature of the task has changed, but because our ability to accomplish it has increased." The last myth for today, before we get all mythed out, and that is, racers are all intense and cliquey, and it's not a welcoming scene. Okay, picture a windy race. We've just had 3 tight starts and a few close crossings. One mark rounding where I swear I could have stepped from our bow to the other boat's stern. Everyone's adrenaline is right up there. We crossed the last finish line, and we all turned back towards the club. What happens next is my favorite part. And the whole fleet, and that's often 100 or more boats, forms into this big slow motion parade. People stand up, stretch their backs, and the tall tales of our adventure begin. "Hey, nice start. You absolutely owned us on that left shift. What happened to your spinnaker on leg 3? By the time we hit the dock, crews are already on shore talking about every highlight moment or strategy, and giving DIY insights for fixing little gear issues. That's the part you don't see from the parking lot. The racing is serious, but most people are there for the community. We've had folks show up on Tali Ho knowing nobody, and by the end of the season, they've got 3 or more boats fighting over them on Thursdays. Not because they're experts, but because they're fun to sail with and they show up. And why not? Look at all of the fringe benefits. So here's the real story. Club racing isn't some secret society for rich pros. It's just a bunch of us in ordinary boats trying to get around the course just a little better every week and outdo each other with stories on the dock afterwards. You don't need to be experienced. You don't need to have a fat bank account. And you don't need to be a daredevil. You just need to show up at a club on a race night and say something like, "Hey, I'm new. I'd love to crew. I'll listen and work hard, and I'll keep coming back." If one of these myths has been festering in your head, tell me in the comments which one it is. And if you're already racing, drop your own first race story, because your story might just be the one that finally pushes someone off the dock and onto a boat. Please subscribe if you want more real, on-the-water racing from Life Aboard Sailing Team Tali Ho. And we do this the old-fashioned way. No AI, voice or video. And if you ever see us and we do get out to lots of other sailing venues, come say hi. There's almost always room for one more.